We've just arrived at the Conrad, Chicago, kind of exhausted from our train ride without a lot of sleep. But we come to discover that it's a really beautiful hotel. The room is spectacular. Here's the coffee area with snacks, refrigerator down below, nice dressing area. And here's the room itself. Large room with comfortable chairs, a really comfortable bed, nice work area, TV set, stereo, DVD player. Michigan Avenue is on the other side of the shopping mall, which is right below us. And this is their outdoor bar and restaurant. It's been a little bit rainy, but I think it's cleared up now. And you can see some of the tall buildings. Bathroom is really nice. Nice marble vanity, or granite, I guess. A huge shower. Nice soaking tub. And the toilet is tucked away in its own little room. Oh, we're about to have breakfast at Bubba Gump Shrimp. We're on the Navy Pier. And there's our server who's coming over to ask us what we want.
Now, are these just on...
Collection of hot sauces on the wall. And a map of their locations.
There are many neon beer signs here and a wall of license plates.
This is a watermelon margarita, and instead of having rum in it or tequila, it's got beer. And we get to keep the shaker, it says. Well, the shaker is just a Corona beer bottle. But it's fun. And it's pretty good.
We got here at the right time. We enjoyed our brunch, and boy, has the place filled up.
First, there are stairs at the back of the boat on either side of the American flag. Those stairs lead to the lower deck where you will find additional seating if the fog gets too oppressive for you. You'll find our heads or restrooms on the starboard or right-hand side of the boat. And you will find our most important feature, Sylvia, our bartender. She has a full-service bar. She can make you any sort of drink you might want. She's got beer, wine, soda, mixed drinks, bottled water.
Oh, we're waiting for our tour to start. You see some ducks in the water. how appropriate in the water.
Which we'll see some examples of shortly. But basically, Beaux-Arts is a very cumulative, very eclectic form of architecture. It takes elements of styles over the past 300 years or so from throughout Europe, as well as lots of Greco-Roman elements, and blends them all together. So it's a very ornate, very neo-classical sort of style. So despite the serial killer, the World's Fair was such a big success that the city of Chicago asked Burnham to keep going, basically see what it could do for the city itself. So in 1909, Burnham and his partner Bennett published the plan for Chicago, the first comprehensive where we get our city motto, Urbs in Horto, which means city in a garden. So it's a very green, very well-manicured sort of city. And really what Burnham wanted was to turn Chicago into Paris on the prairie. And most people thought he pulled that off pretty well, with the exception of another prominent architect back then named Louis Sullivan. They did not get along. They definitely didn't agree about architecture. Couple more recent things real quick. Up to the left, this silvery triangular building there is the Swiss Hotel, 1988 by Harry Weiss. Harry Weiss really loved, as well as private residences and retail space. Next, this plain steel and glass building. First, I want to show you a few examples of the Beaux-Arts style, that ornate neoclassical style I mentioned. Our first Beaux-Arts building today is the Wrigley Building, beautiful, up to the right, with the Spanish Renaissance clock tower, built in 1921 and 24 by Graham, Anderson, Probst, and White. Now that's the sort of building you would have seen at the World's Fair in 1893, because that's the sort of building that William Wrigley Jr. saw at the World's Fair, and he had his commission based off that White City concept, and harken back to his days as a young man. There's Tempietos on each corner, I like that word. Those are old water towers. That is the old Jewelers Building, 1926 by Thielber and Fugard. Featured pretty heavily in Transformers 3, Batman Begins, lots of other stuff. Probably its coolest feature, though, for the first 14 years was its car elevator. So the jewelry merchants could drive to the building, go directly up to their offices, so they didn't have to worry about walking around with a briefcase full of diamonds or whatever, because that would... Now, Vanderohe had a student named Bertrand Goldberg who felt a little differently, thought this was too cold, impersonal. Goldberg said there are no straight lines in nature. Why should we have straight lines in our buildings? So if you revolt against straight lines, these towers coming up to the right, called Marina City, affectionately known as the Corncob Towers, for fairly obvious reasons, I think. Everything you needed all in one spot, everything you would get in the suburbs right here under one roof. So you got boats at the bottom you can rent out, restaurants, valet parking, retail spaces, apartments, also had a bowling alley and a movie theater, which is now the House of Blues around the corner. You used to have an no need to leave the downtown area at all. This was the city of the future in the 60s, anyway. And relatively affordable, because Goldberg really wanted to keep a middle class thriving in the downtown area. A couple people, yeah, it's typical. Most people don't seem to know about it. On July 24th, 1915, the Western Electric Company decided to take all of its employees across the lake to Michigan City for a company picnic. They chartered 3 steamers for that purpose and were docked along the south bank of the river, one of which was called the Eastland, which the Chicago school style utilized a masonry-clad steel frame, bigger windows and lots more of them to show that we're no longer tied down to the load-bearing wall, and a 3-part structure like a column, base, shaft, capital, to really show off the height we could achieve with this new technology. This huge building over here is the Merchandise Mart, 1931 by Graham, Anderson, Probst, and White. Art Deco is a nice counterpoint to the Beaux-Arts style. Whereas Beaux-Arts is all about the past, Art Deco is all about the future. So instead of all that neoclassical stuff, now we have bold vertical lines reaching up to the sky, again to show off the height of the building. We have sharper angles, lots of geometric shapes, very repetitive machine-like details. What made it worse is that the river emptied into Lake Michigan, and Lake Michigan is where the city got its drinking water. Well, you take your drinking water, throw in things like sewage, you get things like typhoid, dysentery, cholera, all those things that killed you on Oregon Trail, and none of which are very pleasant. So a lot of people were dying from these horrible waterborne illnesses, till finally in 1889, an organization was formed called the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. This task force, basically, set up to combat water pollution. So starting in 1900, they dug a series of canals along the south branch of the river, called the Chicago Sanitary and Ship Canals, that basically used a combination of engineering and gravity to reverse the flow of the river itself. So instead of sending all our trash and pollution out to the lake, we just started sending it all to St. Louis, which didn't sit too well with them. They sued Chicago for polluting their water, but we won because I have no idea. and they've got the Cardinal, so we're pretty much even anyway. Built in 1898 by Frank Abbott, and it is called Fulton House. As he said, he loved the river, he loved sailing, he also loved triangles. You have the sail or triangle shape to the building, porthole style windows, watch balconies, spiral staircases, private boat docks. It's a very nautically themed, very boat-like, and definitely built for Harry Weese by Harry Weese because he wanted to live on the river, and he was pretty much in the minority back then. They're facing the river, they're set back a bit from the water, so you've got lawns, benches, trees, bushes, flowers, lots of big windows, doors, balconies, porches, rooftop decks. It's very much open to the river, very much embracing it instead of ignoring it. Most importantly, this allowed them to build a real sewer system under the streets because we definitely needed that at that time. And it also created a 60-mile network of tunnels running under the city that merchants could use as dry storage space and even transportation underground between buildings during the cold weather. So very important bit of engineering there. And nothing broke the whole time, which is pretty incredible. So that's very important to the city for a number of reasons. Also known as Ferris's dad's office building from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. One of the best Chicago movies ever. Up there, of course, with Adventures in Babysitting at the same time. Now, directly to our right is number 2 North Riverside Plaza, which was in 1929 by Holabird and Root. Another great example of the Art Deco style. So bold lines, sharp angles, repetitive machine-like details. We were rediscovering a lot of old ruins in the 20s, so it was very popular, became very popular. Both built in the mid-60s. Both very clearly modernist in design. And again, modernism equals minimalism, very plain, utilitarian, all about less is more, form follows function. Modernism. First major difference you'll probably notice here is that instead of that plain square box shape, we now have a building whose shape follows the curve of the river, so it's being shaped by its environment. We have mirrored glass, which is literally reflecting the other buildings, the sky, the clouds. And you can see the windows are convex. They're bowed outward a bit, giving the whole thing a wavy, watery sort of look. Thanks mostly to companies like Sears and Roebuck, Marshall Field. Anybody else ever always have a big Sears catalog on the table when you're growing up? No?
Oh, yeah.
And there was a time, I'm going to say before any of us were born, when you could order from Sears anything from like a spoon all the way up to a new house. You order a brand new house from the Sears catalog, they'd ship you all the pieces and you just put it together yourself, which I can't imagine doing. I can't even put IKEA furniture together. Right here is our current Central Post Office, designed by Knight Architects with a K to be much more efficient, very modern. Each floor color-coded based on where the mail needed to go, so cities, suburbs, states, countries, and so on. Now coming up to the right here, though, is the area where the Great Chicago Fire started. Now, in case you're not familiar with the story, basically on Sunday night, October 8th, 1871, about 11 o'clock or so, it's designed specifically to withstand winds up to about 200 miles an hour. So on a really windy day, the upper floors can sway. That is the Chicago Board of Trade, 1930 by Holabird and Root. That statue is a 3-story figure of Ceres, the Roman goddess of nature. Harvest. Yeah, harvest, grain. Which were the word cereal, Ceres, cereal. And then she's up there because that began as the grain exchange. She also has no face, because when that was built, it was the tallest building in the entire Midwest. There's a couple of reasons to go up to the sky deck, the ledge. On a clear day, you can see like 35 miles up to the west, so like 3 states out there. But that's incidental. The sky deck is on the western side of the building, not for the view west. You're looking into the sun half the day. It's up there for the view down, because the western side is the only side that looks like this, the only side that doesn't have another of those towers sticking out in the way. So you can look through the floor and see 1,400 feet straight down into traffic. Then you've got this big center section that was the 40,000 square foot trading floor. They don't trade there anymore, but back in the 80s, they needed to be completely free of obstructions, no walls, columns, nothing in the way, because they used all the hand signals, right? And be like, buy waffles, sell penguins, whatever they traded. I don't know anything about business. So someone had the idea to just build the towers leaning out of it to either side, and then when they added the center section, the towers just corrected themselves automatically. It's pretty creative, pretty brilliant, pretty risky sounding, I would imagine, but it obviously worked out fairly well. Next to the right, another beautiful Art Deco building by Graham Anderson, Probst and White. This is the Civic Opera building, built in 1929. Home to the Lyric Opera of Chicago, very talented company. Now you can see a lot of the Art Deco stuff we talked about before, the bold lines, the sharp angles, the repetitive details. Setbacks are something else you see in a lot of Art Deco buildings, the way the upper floors are pushed back from the lower ones. That's mostly due to a 1923 New York City ordinance, which stated that you can pretty much make a building as tall as you want, as long as the upper floors are at least 25% smaller than the bottom floor, so you're not blocking all the sunlight out from ground level. And then just kind of caught on, became a popular thing to do. We also, though, have things like the lyres, the laurel wreaths, the masks, these ornate French Renaissance details that do not fit the Art Deco style. Those are just there to let you know what's happening on the inside. So, opera. I saw Rusalka there a few months ago, which is a Czech opera. Basically, it was Little Mermaid, but everybody dies. It was pretty good. A little long, some odd costume choices, but mostly very beautiful. They do musicals now as well. Just a few weeks ago, they did Sound of Music, starring Billy the Phantom Zane, of all people. So apparently that was pretty good. And it's a gorgeous, gorgeous space. So whatever they're doing, it's amazing on the inside. We also have the Auditorium Theater, which is beautiful on the inside. The Chicago Theater, I love. So the Zelda Symphony concert there, that was awesome. The Cadillac Palace of Fort Oriental, all these bigger, beautiful, older downtown theaters. Then so we get the bigger touring Broadway-style shows like Book of Mormon is coming back again in the winter. Motown was this year. We've got the bigger equity companies like Chicago Shakespeare Theater, Steppenwolf Goodman, lots of star power there. Typically big names, big budgets. But we actually have over 200 different theater companies operating in this city, and most of them are performing in spaces about half the size of this deck. So much smaller, more intimate storefront spaces, but still doing some of the best theater you'll see anywhere, whether it's comedy, drama, musicals, dance, performance art, like Blue Man Group has a show in town, $1 Million Quartet, very popular, it's been here for 6 years, about a night when Elvis, Johnny Cash, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Carl Perkins all played together. We're known for sketch and improv comedy like Second City, I.O., The Annoyance, Comedy Sports, which is family-friendly, short-form improv comedy. On this building, you've got those gray boxes, which are called spandrels, and on each spandrel, you can see 4 rivets. And we're, in the most haunted part of the city right now, so that's exciting. Allegedly. Now, 1929, you might remember, was the height of Prohibition when alcohol was illegal. Thank you again, Canada, for helping us through that. I don't know if any of you are familiar with alcohol, but if you are, you might recognize the shape and coloring of that building, as that is meant to resemble a giant bottle of champagne. Vernon Brothers really not what you would call fond of Prohibition, and obviously not very subtle about it. That's a huge bottle of booze in the middle of downtown, in the middle of Prohibition. Kind of ruined the whole thing. So we'll see how long that lasts. The mayor is not happy about it. But that was the Medina Athletic Club, built in 1926. Well, 1929 hits, the stock market crashes, nobody can afford a fancy athletic club, so it becomes a hotel. But you can see lots of very cool, unique ornamentation there. Part of the building are about 150 pieces of other famous structures from around the world. Taken from the same quarry that Michelangelo got the marble for his David masterpiece, a pretty fancy, expensive kind of stuff, right? And so they cut the marble thinner than they normally would have because they didn't want to risk depleting the entire quarry. Makes sense. Not realizing, apparently, that marble, when cut thin and exposed to lots of crazy random Chicago weather, it gets kind of brittle, kind of fragile. So it is visible on the Chicago City flag, which you see over to the right there, behind the fake helicopter. It's fake, it's not real. They just want to look cool. So that's 3 white stripes, 2 blue stripes, and 4 red stars. The 3 white stripes are the 3 major sections of the city. Those being, of course, the north side, the south side, and the west side. There is no east side because there's a lake there. The 2 blue stripes are the waterways, the lake and the river, and the 4 red stars are some of the important historical events in the city's past. First star, Fort Dearborn, that first government settlement which stood up where Michigan Avenue now is. And again, you can see on the sidewalk marked in bronze where the fort actually stood, where the walls were. Second star, Great Chicago Fire, 1871, without which we would be in Lake Michigan right now. Pretty much everything east of Michigan Avenue is landfill made up of debris from the Chicago Fire. So when the city burned down, all that ash and wood and debris, they just shoved into the lake, smoothed it over, and built right on top of it. So all of this, 26 acres of the lakefront specifically, would still be the lake if the fire hadn't happened. None of that would be there. Third star, that World's Fair of 1893, or the White City we talked about, that World's Columbian Exhibition.
Gee.
Started out as a soda company, baking soda company, believe it or not. Rum was an afterthought. That's what worked. So, but we'll turn here, ready to turn on where Chicago had its fire. Most people, I think, have heard of the Great Chicago Fire. It took place in October of 1871. A third of the population was left homeless. 18,000 buildings burnt down. So that's the area that we're getting ready to go over. It was once all ashes, everybody. We have over 450 stores on the street, 3 vertical malls, some old hotels, art galleries, just to name a few things. And most everybody, when they come to Chicago, they make it a point to come to that mile. This, too, is on the night tour. And I think it was Jewel that was represented. They were raising $10,000 to fund breast cancer. And all you had to do was get on a bike and I guess however fast you could. But anyway, welcome if you just joined us. All of the stage. If you were to see how those people are kind of looking, you have 15 minutes. Just take a walk along part of it. You're never going to see a building like that. It won an award in the early 1900s for best design. So just pick up the guitar tomorrow and find a corner and start singing. So just so you know that, everybody. You're out and about tonight. All of these side streets have things going on. Additional restaurants, additional places to kind of visit. So we'll turn the corner here, folks. We'll be at our next stop. And I'm going to step downstairs for a moment and I'll be right back up, okay? Smaller tower here, the oldest of what we call the vertical malls. The Hershey store is across the way from here, so just think stop 10. And record, I'm sorry that the fog is preventing you from seeing some of the tops of these buildings. So, very pretty church across the street. This is Fourth Presbyterian Church. It's obviously very detailed, very ornate. Another example of some of our pretty architecture. I don't get involved with the various styles. Some of the other, the architecture boat tour and places like that would. But this was used in the movie My Best Friend's Wedding with Julia Roberts. We welcome you, and whether you want to go in and hang out, take pictures, ask questions.
All around the city there are pairs of seats from Wrigley Field. Sponsors pay to name them, and then they're eventually going to be auctioned off for charity.
This piece of the strip here is called Oak Street Beach. As a rule, this would be where people would flock to, even though we have a chain of sandy beaches that goes on for a mile. Because of the neighborhood, this is where they come. At night, when you come by, you can look inside. Those are all crystal chandeliers. The signage is at the top. We've had presidents stay here, and dignitaries, and movie stars. And the Playboy Club, for those of you that have heard of that, Hugh Hefner, also from Chicago. We don't see it on the tour, but it is somewhere in this area. So, of course, we want to congratulate you again. He's a movie buff. Jimmy Choo, Vera Wang, Prada, Harry Winston, Dolce & Gabbana. So, you're not entirely happy with the t-shirt that we provide? This might be a place to return to, everybody. So, what we try to do on this tour is just give you ideas of spots that where different things go on. Museum campus, the theater area, if you're a foodie and like to, experiment a little with food, the next area might be for you, River North. Of course, you're seeing some of the pizza parlors, 1,200 pizza parlors, no excuse for not having deep dish pizza. So, we won't let you go home. So. Another building going up here, this is, I think, connected with one of the universities, Loyola campus. And there is one bullet hole that remains, and I'll show you the camera that points to that. For those that might be into the whole bootlegging era, we have, I took a fun tour when I was on called The Untouchables, and it was really a lot of fun. So, anyway, all right, this is Holy Name Cathedral, everybody. Once we go a little further up, you'll see a little white camera on that vertical column. It's between the two round windows. And it will point, I believe the glow hole really is on that top step next to the column, but it lets you know that Al is there. So the O'Banions, I think he had a floral shop or something that was across the street, but anyway, this is where he just got down. So there you go. You see that little white camera, everybody?
Oh, yeah.
And I think, as I said, the spot is normally people are usually eating lunch there, but I believe it looks like a little penny or something to the side of that one. You remember one of them called the Breakup? He was a tour guide, and it was on one of our buses. So we'll get an idea of what we're doing here, everybody. Okay. And really, for our last time tonight, this will be top 12. I'm sure it's just before 5. So, do we have anybody that is getting off here? Okay.
I don't think so.
People comment on how clean Chicago is, and that's a huge compliment. Sometimes with the magnificence for lack of construction this year, much more so than normally, and it's all good ultimately because different areas are getting a facelift. So the Riverwalk is being extended here. Zip code, all right? So for those of you that were on the tour before and that went by stop 6, the Field Museum, or stop 3, Macy's, what used to be Marshall Field, all of these huge, massive buildings. And we still use it for trade shows, the bottom floors, but the rest of it, as far as I know, is private offices. But we didn't do anything small. You can tell that all of our buildings, everything was grand and large. One of the ladies here was saying how much she likes this. This building is identified only by the address. It's called 333 Walker. A little further down, we have Union Station. For those of you that remember the movie The Sting with Robert Redford and Paul Newman, part of that was filmed there. This is an office building. And as I said, just representing another idea that somebody had, and they had the option to make it happen. So, by the way, Willis Tower, people still call it Sears Tower. You would still see these. You pull the lid down and you could just stick the catalogs inside. So when this was built, that was what they wanted to do, was honor that piece of Sears history. Yes, this stands there. She stands about 33 feet high. Her name is Ceres, C-E-R-E-S. She represents the goddess of agriculture. And when the Board of Trade first got together, evidently that was the product. That was the one, because it's closed. So, Rodney, you can check that out. So, I can still show it to you, but... So the L, by the way, everybody, this is the original design. It goes back to the 1800s. The big orange structure is called flamingo. It's supposed to be a flamingo bird. We're not really certain about that, but we like that it puts a little bit of color in this area. Millennium Park, where we'll be in just a moment, everybody, that together with the Art Institute and Grant Park make up what's called Chicago's Playground. Looks like a big silver kidney bean. And you can see that as well. It's in the middle of the park. So.
This is Millennium Park.
Certainly we have our problems, no doubt about it. And gentlemen, I'm sorry, I didn't see you mixed in with up over there. Bye, everyone. Oh, bye. Bye, honey. We will not see you tonight. They had a big thing at the Art Institute last year. A big showing, I should say, on urban living. People are moving here to live, and you have great views, but the places are small. So if you take a look, you would have what's called a speakeasy up there. That's just another word for an illegal nightclub. And if you needed to see Al, the story goes, with the then up-and-coming George Clooney and Noah Wiley, and that was a hospital set in Chicago many years ago, and Anthony Edwards. So the idea was to make it a city within a city. They put a grocery store in there, a bowling alley, a movie theater. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, stop number 4. And,
It's
Orchestra Hall.
Orchestra Hall. That's the name.
Orchestra Hall and Symphony Center.
pardon? I do. I live up, in South Louisville. Yeah. Well, no, I'm sitting with my book. Argentine tango. Meetings with this, we'll just keep it positive. We'll think of it as the meeting place. People get together, you're in clusters of conversation, everybody's having a good time. We had 1 million people that met down here last year. What step are you going to?
Oh, I was going to get back downtown, but because I don't
Oh.
Camp out on the right.
There's the skyline in the fog.
Once an hour, the top jet goes off, 450 feet in the air, which is kind of pretty. Shell. This was all available for people to watch soccer this morning. That's what this is all about.
We're in Pizzeria Due, which was highly recommended to us. And I think it's going to be great. The deep dish pizza takes about 40 minutes. So we're going to wait on a salad and a beer. And this place looks as though it's been here for 100 years. The soup of the day I see is garlic bread. That doesn't make sense. We ordered a local craft beer. This is Goose Island 312, served with a slice of lemon. Since our pizza is going to take about 40 minutes to cook, we ordered a large salad, which includes salami and cheese and giardiniera and
I just got a pearl onion.
pearl onion. Wow. And anchovies and
You mentioned olives. Nice big
no
ones.
olives. What else did I miss?
I don't even know.
That's good. We'll find out what else is in it. Our deep dish pizza has arrived. This is what one slice of it looks like.
Yeah.
We're enjoying lunch at the shops at Northbridge, which is adjacent to our hotel. They have a very nice food court here, and we got some chipotle chicken sandwiches and tortilla soup. Tortilla soup is already gone.
Lots of chicken in here.
What is this one?
Now and later. On the bottom, there's a good and plenty pillow, really big.
So we just need to time it. I wasn't sure. You wanted to- Okay, yeah, we'll have them ready in the bag. Yeah.
Well, we have like big red.
I don't remember this thing. Here's a
Mary Jane.
Mary Jane. Yeah, so these are $12 assortments. Oh, Turkish taffy bottles. Oh, the candy necklace, yeah. Just like that. And this was
Looking down from the third level to the first level, something I've never seen before, a Microsoft store. We'll check that out when we go down there.
directions.
While we're standing here talking, we're going to be buying a lot of eye makeup, so
No, I
gotta get something. Eye cream.
High five, I love
Whatever.
it. She got
Okay.
it, she got it there.
I don't do the makeup.
I don't love the makeup. We don't believe in makeup. We believe in therapy. Good job.
Yeah, exactly. So
our next stop is probably going to be Chico's.